Distinguished dignitaries, dear colleagues from PRL, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. As you all know, today is a very, very special occasion. In fact, many events together. First is that we are celebrating and having 76th PRL का Amrut Vyakhyaan. And this Vyakhyaan is given by none other than the most distinguished alumnus of PRL, as you all know. Connected with that is the second event that PRL Alumni Association is also going to have today later in the day a workshop, one-day workshop on 75 years of science journey and our role. And the third is that there will be a meeting of PRL alumni. Today is a very special occasion when we can see in the audience the colleagues who had actually seen Professor Sarabhai and interacted with him, and those days in which the bubbling activities in the corridors of the ground floor, and very young colleagues who are pursuing their PhD today. So in that sense, today is a very, very special occasion. I'll request all of you to kindly switch off your mobile phones because this is being relayed live and you can have our proceedings without any distraction. With these words, may I request Professor Anil Bhardwaj, Director PRL, to kindly welcome the August gathering.
नमस्कार, सुप्रभात, केम छो, आदाबर्स, वणकम, अंबागणी, सत श्री अकाल, वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग। आप सभी का पीआरएल में और पीआरएल के इस सभागृह के आर रामनाथन ऑडिटोरियम में अभिनंदन है, स्वागत है। A very warm welcome from me, Anil Bhardwaj, to all the alumni to their alma mater, all the viewers on YouTube channel of PRL, the distinguished and special invitees, and my PRL colleagues and students. Today is a memorable day on different counts. Firstly, as Dr. Deshpande has already informed, PRL is hosting the PRL's alumni meet or PRL Alumni Association meet. And it is also organizing the 6th one-day conference on PRL 75 years science journey and our role. PRL Alumni Association is a 2 solar cycle old association. Sweet 22 years. It was found in 1999 and has been very active with about 500 members. Secondly, as the country celebrates its 75 years of independence through Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, PRL is celebrating Platinum Jubilee since PRL was founded in the year 1947 by the father of Indian space program, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. And to do the celebration, we started a series of Vyakhyaan, which we called PRL Ka Amrit Vyakhyaan, which started on 4th of August 2021, that is 2.5 years back, with a sankalp that every week, every Wednesday at 4 p.m., we will have one Vyakhyaan. And a Vyakhyaan by a distinguished personality in the field of science, technology, engineering, arts, literature, business, law, management, medical, music, sports, social science, etc., etc. And I'm really happy to tell you, which you are all aware about, that this Sankalp got completed on 5th of January this year, when we had the 75th Vyakhyaan on 5th of January, delivered by Shri A.S. Kiran Kumar ji, the Chairman PRL Council. And if you look at how this Vyakhyaan has unfolded over the last 2.5 years, it has covered all the fields of science, engineering, but not only that, all aspects of life. About 1/4 of the Vyakhyaan Kartas were women, scientists or engineers or technocrats or people from arts, music. 1/3 from outside India. And PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan has become a brand now, which is told to me personally by many who actually are watching us live also today. And on 5th of January this year, we took another sankalp that we will continue this brand in the form of one Vyakhyaan every month. And I wish and I pray that this series, which is PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan 2.0, will continue when we celebrate the centenary of PRL. So today is the new start, the first monthly Vyakhyaan or the 76th PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a yet another very, very distinguished Vyakhyaan Karta, Dr. K. Kasturirangan. Thirdly, you may be wondering, what is the connection? Alumni meet, PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan, Dr. Kasturirangan, and me, your host or your host. So let me start in the reverse direction. I, as the director of PRL, is the patron of PRL Alumni Association. Dr. Rangan, Dr. Kasturirangan, we call it Dr. Rangan also, is an alumni of PRL, PhD in 1970, the most decorated and celebrated alumni of PRL. And then PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan, for which we wanted to have Dr. Rangan for quite some time. On some occasions when we were trying to get his time, because of his too busy schedule, he could not spare for us Wednesday evening. But he promised that I will definitely give a PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan, and preferably in person. The wording I remember still when I was talking to him on phone. I want to come to PRL to give PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan. So here he is, keeping his promise that he is going to do a new start of PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan, that is a monthly Vyakhyaan series. And now the linkage between Dr. Rangan and Alumni Association. He was the first elected president of PRL Alumni Association and was the president for the year 1994 to 1998. He continued as the president for another term, 1998 to 2000. So for half solar cycle, he was the president of PRL Alumni Association. तालियां तो बज जाए। Hence, it's a moment of delight for all of us that Dr. Rangan has accepted our invitation to be with us today to deliver the 76th PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan. PRL has a very strong alumni association of more than 500 members, and it is exponentially growing. Dr. Rangan was talking to me, how many students you have in PRL? I said, more than 100 right now, and about 50 postdoctoral fellows. And you can see how the legacy has gone. In addition to Dr. Rangan, we have on the alumni list, which are celebrated, is Professor U.R. Rao. You know very well, I don't have to tell for the details of that. Dr. P.D. Bhavsar, supervisor of Dr. Rangan, official supervisor, though he worked with Dr. Sarabai, who was the director of SAC for 85-86. Professor R.G. Rastogi, who was director of IIG Mumbai during 1980 to 89. I'm just naming few, okay? Please don't get offended if your name is not there. Dr. S. Krishnaswamy, Director PRL 2005, and he was a Bhatnagar Awardee in 1984. Professor B.N. Goswami, Director ITM Pune, Bhatnagar Awardee 95. Professor J.N. Goswami, Director PRL from 2005 to 14, and Bhatnagar Awardee from 1994. Dr. Dheeraj Bora, Director of IPR for the year 2013 to 16. Professor R. Sridharan, Director SPL VSSC for the year 1998 to 2010. Professor A. Jayaraman, Director NARL Tirupati, 2007 to 2017. Professor Jyotiranjan Ray, Director NSS Trivandrum, 2021 and continuing, as well as Bhatnagar Awardee 2015. Professor Sunil Singh, current President of PRL Alumni Association, Director of NIO Goa, still continuing, and 2016 Bhatnagar Awardee. Professor R. Krishnan, Director of IITM Pune, 2022 and continuing. Dr. R. Ramesh, Bhatnagar Awardee of 1998. Professor Kanchan Pandey, Bhatnagar Awardee of 2003. Urfan Beg, Bhatnagar Awardee of 2006. Sudhir Vempati, Awardee, Bhatnagar Awardee for 2016. And the list is going on. I thought I would stop here. And we are very fortunate to have many of them present in this hall. So, if you see, PRL alumni have spread thick and wide across the whole globe, occupying various positions of leadership and mentoring leadership. Dr. Rangan was talking to me about mentoring the leadership. So now here is an example of how PRL has actually developed leaders to lead the nation. So with this, I once again warmly welcome all the alumni to the alma mater, special dignitaries and distinguished invitees for today's event, and my PRL colleagues, and all those who have joined us live on the PRL's YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Professor Bhardwaj, for this nice overview of PRLA. And I was just wondering that what would be there in such an alma mater which just produces so many directors, two major institutes, so many Bhatnagar awardees. And it's indeed proud to be a part of this alumni association, or even being a part of PRL alumni. The best part is that if you are an alumnus of PRL, you get a privilege of calling Guru Bandhu, Guru Bhagini to many distinguished colleagues, and that is what is the greatest thing of becoming PRL alumnus. Now, we have with us Professor Sunil Kumar Singh, the President of PRLAA. So I'll invite Professor Sunil to kindly tell us about the PRLAA.
Good morning, everybody. Honorable Padma Vibhushan, Dr. K. Kasturirangan ji, former Secretary, Department of Space, Government of India, Dr. Anil Bharadwaj, Director PRL, and patron of PRL Alumni Association, distinguished and notable alumnus of PRL, my dear friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. With great honor and pleasure, I welcome you all to this auspicious occasion of the Platinum Jubilee year of our laboratory, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this 6th one-day science conclave organized by PRL Alumni Association. I'm very much thankful to Dr. Kasturirangan, a great alumnus of PRL, for gracing this occasion despite his busy schedule. I, on my behalf and on the behalf of entire Alumni Association, thank you very much, sir, for gracing this occasion and agreeing to address us in Platinum Jubilee year of this laboratory. We are very much grateful to Dr. Anil Bhardwaj. He is already patron of Alumni Association, director of this laboratory, for wholeheartedly supporting this alumni event. This day is very important as it provides an opportunity for everyone to meet each other after so many years. It always provides a chance to everybody, every individual from previous years, to meet their former colleagues, guides, teachers, and other staff members. In addition, it helps the alumni notice the various changes, how the laboratory is evolving with time. In fact, the last time we met in this laboratory was before the pandemic. It was in 2019 December that we met, and again, almost after 3 years, we are meeting. Though we were keeping abreast with the various activities of our alma mater through the internet and other means, meeting physically is always a different experience. I know time does not stop for anyone, and it takes a lot to take some time out of your busy schedule to be here, and for that, I thank you very much. But one thing, I'm very much sure that at the end of the meeting, you will miss your older days even more. I believe our laboratory has become one of the greatest institutions, not only in India, but at the international level. This was made possible due to the multiple roles played by you all sitting over here and spread all over country and worldwide. I would like to appreciate all the effort that is done by you all for the development of our society, and thank you for justifying the years spent by you at this laboratory. At last, a little bit about our association. Dr. Bhardwaj has already told about that, but I'll just repeat some of them. The Physical Research Laboratory Alumni Association was established in the year 1991. 18 founder members that proposed and formed the PRL Alumni Association were Drs. M.S. Narayanan, N.K. Vyas, P.N. Pathak, K.P. Singhal, Y.C. Saxena, S.R. Thakur, H.S.S. Sinha, Hariom Vats, S.K. Alurkar, R.G. Rastogi, Ashok Kumar Sharma, P. Janardhan, S.K. Gupta, P. Sharma, M.B. Poddar, and M. Mohan. The objective of the PRL Alumni Association, laid in the Memorandum Association, are to promote and encourage friendly relation between the members of the association and to keep the members informed about each other's whereabouts and achievements. And I think this is the very good occasion to do that. The first governing body to which the management of the PRL Association was interested comprised of Dr. R.G. Rastogi, M.S. Narayanan, H.S.S. Sinha, and 4 members, namely Harish Chandra, S.R. Thakur, K.P. Singhal, and P.N. Pathak. As Bhardwaj has already informed, the total number of alumni is almost about 500. I think already 475 people have already got the degree and many more are going on. And this is the 6th one-day conference organized by PRL Alumni Association. So I think we need to do more. Actually, in these so many years, at least in the many, as he has told, 2 solar cycle, 22 years, we have done only 6 times. So I think this has to be, I think, annual event. And I hope it will be taken care in future. And last but not least, I would like to thank Dr. Ravind and other team members for making the wonderful arrangement. And many of you have seen study, many of us have visited the Statue of Liberty. Wish you all a wonderful meeting. Have a good time ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Singh, for this introduction about the A. And I must say that many of the names which he mentioned, they are already there in the audience. I can see Dr. Vyakhyaan, Ji, they are here. So the younger colleagues who are continuing with their research, they may find this a rare opportunity to interact. So I request all of you to get introduced to them and find time to interact with them. Let's move ahead. We now proceed towards the main event, like the 76th Vyakhyaan by Professor Kasturirangan. But before he does that, I'll invite Professor D. Pallam Raju, Dean PRL, to say a few words in his introduction. As such, Professor Kasturirangan doesn't require any introduction, but I think that this is actually a bonus for the one who introduces him. So the pleasure is in introducing the speaker. Pallam Raju.
Morning. Yes, indeed, the pleasure is mine, as Dr. Deshpande said, to introduce today's speaker, Padma Vibhushan Krishna Swami Kasturirangan. Dr. Kasturirangan completed his Bachelor's of Science with honors and Master's in Physics from Bombay University. He is an illustrious alumnus of PRL, and he received his doctorate in the year 1970 on experimental high-energy astronomy. He has a wide-ranging interest in space sciences applications, technologies, national and international science-related policies, and legal regimes. Dr. Kasturirangan had been with the Indian Space Organization, ISRO, for over a period of nearly 35 years, including nearly 10 years as its chairman from 1994 to 2003. He worked on the design and development of early satellite systems of ISRO and played a key role in shaping of India's remote sensing satellite capabilities. Dr. Kasturirangan is currently Chancellor, Central University of Rajasthan, Chairman, Governing Board, Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics, IUCA Pune, Chairperson, NIIT University, Nimrana, Member, Atomic Energy Commission, Emeritus Professor at National Institute of Advanced Studies, Bangalore, Member of Council and Trust, Raman Research Institute, Bangalore, and Honorary Distinguished Advisor of ISRO. He had been a nominated member of Rajya Sabha from 2003 to 2009, and later a member of the erstwhile Planning Commission from 2009 to 2014. More recently, since July 2017 to December 2018, he had been the chairman of the committee that drafted the National Education Policy. Presently, he is the chairman of the National Steering Committee for developing the National Curriculum Framework. Dr. Kasturirangan is a member of all the National Science Academies of India and several international academies. He is a member of the International Astronomical Union and a fellow of the World Academy of Sciences. He is an academician of Pontifical Academy of Sciences, Vatican City, an honorary fellow of the Cardiff University at UK. Dr. Kasturirangan is the only Indian to be conferred with the honorary membership of the International Academy of Astronautics. He has won several series of awards, including Shantiswar Bhatnagar Award in 1983, 4th C.S. Sri Chandrasekhar Saraswati National Eminence Award, Mumbai in 2001, Brooke Medal 2004, L&D Memorial Award in 2004, Theodore von Kamran Award 2007, Basavashri Prashasti Award from Sri Muruga Mutt in Karnataka in 2020, among others. He has been conferred with Rajyotsava Prashasti from the government of Karnataka in 2014, the highest civilian honor Padma Shri in 1982. This is particularly interesting as he received Padma Shri before his Bhatnagar Award, and Padma Bhushan in 1992, and Padma Vibhushan in 2000 by the President of India, and award of the Officer of the Legion d'Honneur in 2002 by the President of French Republic in France. With this, again, it's something like, showing a candle to the sun, so sunlight. So it's not, his accolades are enormous. But with this brief introduction, I would like to invite Professor K. Kasturirangan ji to deliver the 76th PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan on my professional forays, people, challenges, and anecdotes. Professor Kasturirangan.
What we do here now? Good morning to all of you. Really delighted to be here with all of you today morning. I have not been here for the last 2 or 3 years. That's what Anil told me. But anyhow, I'm extremely thankful to the PRL, to the director, Dr. Anil Bharadwaj, and all his other colleagues, and also a fantastic experience of associating now today again after many years with many of you who are the members of the PRL Alumni Association and with whom I had the privilege in many cases knowing and others being heard and today to see. So it's a very, very unique experience and opportunity, and that too a very happy occasion. And I should thank the PRL management for facilitating this very fortunate event. And you have also asked me to deliver the 76th PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan, a very innovative way of celebrating India's 75th year of independence. And I'm happy that you have already completed the first phase of this Vyakhyaan, and that you have given me the privilege of addressing all of you today as a part of the second phase of the Amrut Vyakhyaan, which will be once in a month. I'm indeed fortunate that Anil and others wanted me to give this talk. Of course, it's more than giving this talk. To come here, to be here with all of you, to see all of you, and to talk to many of you, I think it is something which is much more valuable than anything else in a visit of this kind. And that was to VRL, which shaped me to what I am today. So I had to also think about what I should talk on an occasion of this kind. So I had a discussion with Anil as to what I should speak. It should be, and generally the people here, my colleagues here, more senior colleagues also here, and the people who have followed in PRL as part of their research career, and many others. That will be the kind of audience. So the question is, giving a talk on astronomy, giving a talk on aeronomy, giving a talk on the future of space, I think it is carrying Port to Newcastle. And I thought that is not the kind of thing probably an occasion of this kind demands. On the other hand, I joined PRL in 1963, worked almost up to 7 years. And over the last of those 70s, the 60s and 70s, were the days where the institution had just come into being, taking shape, evolving, and at the same time, providing a cradle for the India space program. So there was a very eventful period. It was more than research, it was more than program. There were so many things that were happening at this institute. So keeping that in mind, a student who worked in that period, who was exposed to what was going on, and at the same time to see how the mind of that person changed as time progresses beyond PRL, and how the very base or the edifice in which we were put at that particular time, how it took off. And many of us spread ourselves to different parts of the country or the world, and did our own share of what could be done for this country. So we thought that it would be a nice thing to share some of those kind of experiences. So my today's talk will be more related to a trajectory, drawing up a trajectory for the kind of work that I could do in PRL and beyond. And then subsequently, of course, most importantly, playing for more than 35 years at space program, as a space program. And subsequently, based on whatever we could do in the space program, and the government found it useful to continue me in other roles. So I'll give a little, it's almost like it's a 15-year of a professional life, which I have to pack it up in the 15 minutes of a talk of this kind. And let me see what I can do in trying to convey some of those excitements that I had. And whether it will be an excitement for you, I leave it to your judgment. So this, I would like to once again thank Anil and everybody else here for the unique opportunity. You know, I will start with a little bit of my early days. Many times it so happens that early childhood days does have an impressionable effect on the youngsters, and this is true. And especially when I recently went into the questions of national education policy and tried to look at the school education part of it, and that was the first 5 years of the school education part of it, I came to know the significance of what our initial 5 to 8 years is. So that is the one. So I was myself an exposure, and if you recapitulate what happened to me, in a sense, I learned as to why 80 years later, when I became a part of the national education policy. So my early years was in Ernakulam. I was born in Ernakulam in Kerala. Those were the days of Ernakulam where the sky was absolutely dark in the night. It was not corrupted by the electromagnetic interferences that one is accustomed to in the today's cities. And therefore, one could see the beautiful panorama of a night sky. And that, in a sense, you come and you look at it with wonderment, what happened in those years. And that really kindled a little bit of interest in me about the stars, the solar system, the beautiful Milky Way that starts like a necklace across the sky. It really created a passion for physics, mathematics. That is what I was told by my elders, that I should know if I have to understand what they are. And then I knew that these are a part of a more broader phenomena, you call it astronomy. And so my transition of interest to astronomy took place as I started the education in the school and beyond. So that continued even as I completed my master's degree in Bombay University. And I was still looking for opportunities where I could pursue my early childhood interest of astronomy. So used to do, those were not the days in which you had an internet, you could immediately find out where what is available and all that. Really, there was a small advertisement in the Free Press Journal of Bombay. which I responded from physical research laboratory that there are opportunities for cosmic ray research, and like the laboratory is being headed by Vikram Sarabhai. So I wrote in a full stack paper, you have to write it with your hand, and made an application and send it off. It takes about 15, 20 days for them to react, but that is not an instantaneous response on internet. But then I got a call. I came here. I was interviewed. There was a committee that was set up to interview many of us. But in fact, Saxena, I think if he's here in this crowd, he was one of the persons who was with me. Harish Chandra was another one. So these were my colleagues at that time. We were all here, and we had an initial interview with a set of people. We had, if I remember, Chitnis was there, Bausar was there, Aswagi was there, and others, and this thing. And then few of us were shortlisted. So Saxena was there, Harish Chandra was there, Kargatra was there, I remember. So we were shortlisted, and we were asked to wait. By evening, I was told that Dr. Sarabhai will come and have a final check with each one of them. He will spend a few minutes with each one of us. And I was accordingly assured when Sarabhai came in the evening, the day's interview was over, and 3 or 4 of us were waiting. And Sarabhai made a very incisive set of questions about my interest in research. He wanted to really not the question of knowing my interest in research, checking my interest in research. He tried to put all kinds of questions which were negative in terms of how research could be a kind of handicap. It could be, there could be an uncertain problem, there could be an uncertain outcome, and this would all happen after 7 or 8 years, and so you would have lost, precious time would have been lost. All these kind of things he put together and say that, but I stuck to my guns and said that I am interested, and ultimately he took one important promise. He said that you will not work in theoretical physics, you will work in experimental physics. I want you to do the experimental physics, understand what you do, and that is much more important than working in theoretical physics and immediately getting a PhD. That was his priority. And that was something on which I did not have an objection. And he also put me in charge of the day-to-day care of Professor Bausar and Professor Nerurkar, who were at that time some of his senior students and who were there, who had come back from assignments abroad. So I started directly working with them. And I was primarily interested in the idea of looking at the cosmic X-rays, particularly the diffuse cosmic X-rays. You have to build a telescope, the sodium iodide crystal, and then you got a telescopic system around the sodium iodide crystal, all that was. Then we built an instrument. And this instrument has to be built in the and flown in the balloon. Obviously, you know that you need a higher altitude location for the X-rays to be trapped because atmospheric absorption. And so we built it and flew it in balloons. And this produced the first step, one of the first results about what the cosmic X-ray diffuse background intensity spectrum is. One of the earliest to make the measurement. And this was also in the area of 20 to 100 keV, which was also not that well explored at that time. And we could get something positive about the existence of this and also a broad picture of what the spectrum looked like in the early phase. The importance of this research work, I will just say in two lines. It is a remnant of the cosmic Big Bang. The remnant had, the result is the early Big Bang had resulted in the 2.7, the cosmic background radiation. The relativistic electrons that are accelerated in different objects in the universe, they collided with this low energy photons and created what you call as the effect of an inverse Compton effect. And that is the one that was creating this X-ray domain of the electromagnetic spectrum which is visible in the universe and which was fairly uniform. Later on, of course, there were studies on it to see the non-uniformity, which had very significant cosmological implications. But at that time, the existence and the nature of the spectrum was central, and that is one of the problems that on which I worked on and submitted my thesis. 1970, I got my thesis, and that was the time I also got an offer to go abroad and work in an area of high energy astronomy. I was excited. I wanted to go, but then Sarabhai was very much keen to have many of us having done experiments, having learned the art of doing things with the hand. He wanted us to work here in India, and he talked about space. And his persuasive powers were incredible. The importance of space, why he is starting the space, what are the contents of this space, what kind of challenges it will provide, how this new niche can really not only be fascinating and exciting, but also will be very relevant in the context of what you may call as a leapfrogging from the state of development, state of underdevelopment to a state of development. This was Sarabhai's vision. He showed that this is an important thing. You youngsters have to play a role in this. In fact, your experience in PRL would be of a tremendous value. And he ultimately, in 20 or 30 minutes around the time of 1970, he called me and he told me this, and he said that he would like me to work. And that there is a satellite program that is in the offing. You are will be coming from US and he will be taking charge of this, and you will work with him. And there was a finality about what he said. There is nothing like that. There is going to be a discussion on this. And he is so persuasive and he is so convinced of what he is saying. There was no question of thinking twice about it. I finally accepted this and decided to join ISRO. I say this to say, see how much he was keen that a younger generation is created, a leadership is pipeline is there, and you pick up them and persuade them and make sure that they work for this country. And this is one of the things that Sarabhai did. This not only in my case, it happened all across. But unfortunately, you know, December 31st was no more, and his job was taken over by the next person whom Indira Gandhi appointed, that was Satish Dhawan. But my joining Aryabhat's satellite program, starting with the Aryabhat, you are coming and taking the responsibility, was a very significant turn of events that later on influenced my own trajectory, even beyond physics and astronomy. And I joined URAO, and around that time, and just before Sarabhai passed away, there was a political understanding between the then Soviet Union and India that India will build a satellite in the next 30 months, and this will be launched with the Russians and Soviets. And this is an agreement between Indira Gandhi and Brezhnev. So this was a political decision, and this was given to Sarabhai 6 months before he passed away. And so he came and told URAO that we have to build a satellite in 30 months, and there is an offer from Soviet Union. So that was the kind of, and I want to know the budget for this. And by that time, by December, he was no more, so it was taken over by Dhawan. But in between, there was Professor Menon, who held the fort for 8 months because Professor Dhawan was away in the United States. So at that time, Madam Gandhi, I'm only saying an anecdotal issue, how much familiar we were in building the satellite. When this satellite had been, she asked, what will it cost us? We have to do it in 30 months. And apparently when Sarabhai went and asked the Soviet ambassador, the Soviet ambassador mentioned that you have to build it in 30 months. And one of the important criteria he put in that this satellite has to be heavier than the first satellite built by our bigger neighbors. So that is the only other condition he put down. So we had to build a satellite which was more than 150 kilograms. So this was the specification with which Sarabhai came and told us, and this was to be built in the next three years. And in the matter, after Sarabhai passing away, Madam asked Menon whether what would it cost. And so we had to put up a quick budget, and URAO asked me also to work with him in this area. I am telling this story to know how new we were there in those years. So we collected some of the engineers in Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, and also somebody whom we had in Bangalore, and we estimated that it will be about 65 lakhs. And when the 65 lakhs was presented to URAO, he had a good feel. He had an intuitive feeling. This is a ridiculous number to build India's first satellite. So he said there's something totally wrong. And then we found that it was not a type of component, this was not a quality, we are not considered infrastructure and everything. And finally, there was no room to write out. So he said, when you do one thing, 65 you multiply it by 5, make it into 3 crores and let us send that note to the Prime Minister. So there was no rationale that 3 crores will be the budget for the first satellite. But we did that because of the fact that there was no other rationale. But because he had an intuitive feeling it should be more like 3 crores and not 60 lakhs. That's it. So probably the training that he got here, Sarabhai's way of looking at things, and the research program that he himself is accustomed to, and the type of people with whom he worked, all had added up to see how to think on this. These are very important characteristics of a leader. And he should be realistic, he should not make major mistakes, and at the same time, there could be nebulosity about certain type of inputs that you try to use for. These are all the manifestation of a guy who comes out of a PR with all the other kinds of environment in which he is exposed to. And the budget preparation for the Aryabhatta was one classic example of how a 5 times mistake can be made, but that will become not a mistake, it is the real truth. So that's the kind of, I just want to say this, only this, we had to build up the infrastructure. We finally, Dhawan took over. Dhawan wanted this to be set up in Bangalore, and we had to build up the infrastructure. We had to collect the team. We have to know the methodology of designing and developing a satellite with all its attendant reliability requirements and so on. And finally, we had to do it in three years. This was a terrific challenge, and we had something like 300 people. Ultimately, in the next several months, we collected in various areas of satellite technology, infrastructure, thermal, communication systems, power systems, and control systems, regulation systems, all kinds of things you need to understand the technology, and they have to be brought together in an interdisciplinary way. So this is the satellite, and it had to have the necessary reliability, and then you should know how to operate it in the space, including celestial mechanics and things of that kind. So that is the satellite that was built, but UR Rao, with tremendous tenacity and determination, led this team and built this with the Professor Dhawan overseeing this aspect of it. All I can say is there was a board which managed the Aryabhatta project. Professor Dhawan was decided to become the chairman of that particular board. He was so much worried that the first mission of India should not go away. And so he accepted the chairmanship. And I should say that Professor Dhawan never believed that as the chairman of ISRO, he should have the chairman of any other sub-project of ISRO. But it is only one in which he chaired as the chairman of the board of Aryabhat, where UR Rao was the project director. And I had the good fortune of being a secretary of this particular board. So I worked very closely with Professor Dhawan, and in the process of working with him, we learned quite a lot about his way of thinking, the logic, the strategy that he evolves, and things of that kind. So that particular thing we finished finally in 1975, April in Bangalore, but I should say that it took us 40 months. So instead of 36 months, it was a 40-month program, but you can imagine that we still did it within that kind of a time frame. So that was the first of those great challenges that came across. Of course, Satish Dhawan continued to direct the program. UR Rao continued to be the director of the satellite projects of ISRO. I was asked to head the next remote sensing project, which is the Bhaskara project, to put a low-cost camera system in space, take the pictures, look at the Earth resources and things of that kind. And we had some very interesting challenges. I only want to say a little bit about the challenge that we faced. We put on the camera that we built for this particular satellite and a high voltage system, a 6 kilowatt high voltage system. And you know, high voltage systems in a near vacuum condition can lead to coronal discharge, and this faced that in the space. Very difficult situation. But somebody thought that this is because of the occluded gases, and these gases ultimately will get out, and then you will have a hard vacuum, and the hard vacuum, there will be no coronal discharge. So we thought that the spacecraft has to be left in the space for 6 months. Later on, we'll bring it back and see whether the gas has gone out, and therefore it's working normally. And believe it or not, what happened is the lighter part of it is Dhawan ordered the younger engineers, telling that I will bet you if you can bring it back. I'll give you 1 month salary. And the youngster, I think this year's Goyal, he said, we'll take up this challenge. And 6 months later, lo and behold, the image came from that particular camera. That means the vacuum has created, the occluded gases have escaped, there is a region conducive for a high voltage, there is no discharge of high voltage, and therefore the camera started working normally 6 months later in space. And at that time, we went to tell Dhawan that how he lost his bet. And he said, I agree, I lost my bet, and he took from his pocket a 5 rupee note and wrote S. Dhawan and gave it to them. So we wondered, why is it that he is just giving 5 rupees? He said he has better 1 month salary. And then he said, you see, I am still the director of the Institute of Science. I draw my salary from the Institute of Science. I have promised you guys that I will give 1 month salary of ISRO. I take 1 rupee as my salary from ISRO. I give only 5 rupees, and you. So this is to give you the environment in which the most difficult programs are done under a leadership which was they know their business and they never wanted to discourage you and they always wanted to be with you in any case, whether it is a success or a failure. And Dhawan created that kind of a culture. So just to tell you, this is how we had the first of the thing. Later on, of course, URO became chairman once Dhawan stepped down after 20 years. And URO really pushed many programs of ISRO, I should say that, with respect to the challenges and technology and innovation he brought to bear in Indian remote sensing satellite development, INSAT system development. Ultimately, of course, we ended up building world-class remote sensing satellites. We have got world-class multi-mission INSAT satellites. And we also use the opportunity to develop our own ideas. And I want to say specifically during this time, between Professor Rao and I associating with him in building one of the remote sensing satellites, we brought several new innovations in terms of building the control systems, in terms of the gyroscope development within the country. You know, the gyroscope is strategically such an important element because they are also used in the missile for guidance, control, and navigation. So they were not easy to get anywhere. People were not even willing to quote from abroad as to a specification for gyroscope. We built world-class gyroscope, reaction wheels which controls the momentum of the spacecraft, then propulsion system which gives the thrust with respect to the velocity changes. All these kind of things were built as a part of building the world-class this thing. We wanted to make sure that India's first remote sensing satellite in the operational sense will have a capability which is not less than the best of the two satellites at that particular time operating. That is the Spot satellite in France and the Landsat satellite in America. And when finally, and we also have to use, because of we have to use our own launch vehicle, they were not able to build a satellite which is as big as Spot or Landsat, which essentially also means that we have to trim the system because the capability we didn't want to compromise. So we came out with some very innovative optics. We came out with very innovative, in fact, George Joseph was one of the pioneers. Kiran Kumar, who is the chairman of URDC, he was one of the key persons in developing this kind of camera system. So these were all built afresh, but innovatively. And when we launched it, it became the world's best satellite and comparable in performance with the Spot and Landsat. So we have reached that in 2 generations, from Bhaskara to Aryabhat, to IRS. Then some youngsters felt that why do we always say that our satellite is as good as Americans or Japan and this thing, French. Why don't we build satellite? They will start saying we should build as good a satellite as India builds. IRS 1C and 1D became the world's best civilian satellite in the forces. So you can see the challenges that ISRO took up. They always wanted to build world-class systems. Our capability should be no less than the research capabilities elsewhere, and then produce outcomes which were become the cynosure of the world. So I thought that this, I should bring it again. Rao was involved from this laboratory. Myself, I had a role in this along with Rao and so on. And similarly, we built also the multi-mission satellites. And by that time, I took over as the director of the ISRO's satellite program, as the director of the ISRO Satellite Center. This is just to give you the type of way in which the resolution, this is the one on the side where you saw as the Bhaskara's picture, shows a 1 kilometer resolution, came down to 5 kilometers resolution, came down to 1 kilometer resolution, and you can see the type of details. And today we have far more better resolution, a sub-meter resolution, which can reveal several aspects of a ground feature. So today India is one of the foremost in terms of building high resolution satellite system, which you could consider the world scale. Around 1994, I took over. Rao stepped down as chairman. I took over. We had some important things to complete. The IRS had just failed by a whisker during your time. The development was complete, everything was done. So we had to concentrate on that. Within 9 months, we corrected the problems that we thought was a software problem. We finally got it. And so IRS P2, P3 launches, they were successful launches. So we had the test flight of the PSLV, which was successful at the second flight during my time. And also the augmented satellite launch vehicle. The launch vehicle program was parallelly progressing. We had the ASLV program successful with Salam, and ASLV had two failures and it had to be put on the track. The whole idea of an ASLV is to make sure that we have an ability to conceive, design, and realize a launch vehicle program which will put a satellite into an escape orbit, and then subsequently to boost it through a PSLV development and not continuing with the ASLV development. So this was all what was packaged in the whole system. So we had the successful program with ASLV, we had successful program with IRS, and through IRS, PSLV, we had today one of the best workhorses in terms of a launch vehicle anywhere in the world. It has 56 total launches, and I should say until today, it has 54 successful launches. One of the best flying launch vehicles anywhere in the world, the military. So this has been done after the development to Dhawan's and Rao's time, and culminating into an operationalization during my period. We also got on to the next heavier vehicle for putting not only the PSLV is a polar satellite launch vehicle, primarily used for putting remote sensing satellite. We wanted to go to the next level, which is the GSLV, and the development was done. And ultimately, we wanted to make sure that over the, not normally a launch vehicle development takes between 8 to 9. It's a fairly long effort, complex effort. Several developments have to be done. So the GSLV had a known time frame, but during my time, many of the developments took place. And we set a goal. The first of the GSLV has to succeed. Why did we set the goal? If you look at the France, the history of United States, history of Soviet Union, all of them had a failure in the very first flight of a GSLV. And this is the one which we wanted to. We did this, and we had an initial hiccup when we launched that particular vehicle, the GSLV Mark I. And that was more because of the fact that there was one of the engine misbehaved, but it was completely decapacitated on the ground itself with not much of a damage. In 26 days, we not only diagnosed the problem, we corrected the problem, and we successfully launched that particular vehicle. And so our GSLV was a successful first flight anywhere in the world. So just to tell you this, these are the kind of challenges. A fairly intricate vehicle, GSLV is intricate because it has got 4 strap-ons which are solid. It has got a liquid, the 4 strap-ons which are liquid, and you have got the core vehicle which is a solid, 120, 130 tons. And then you have got an intermediate stage, which is a vehicle, which is a liquid. And then you have got an upper stage, which is a cryogenic. And cryogenic had its own things. I will say a few words about it, primarily because of the fact that it was really. So there are many things that happened during my time. One is to just boost up the remote sensing applications. The other thing is to develop several of the technologies related to the microwave remote sensing. You know, the microwave is a complement to the optical remote sensing, primarily because of the fact the microwave can penetrate through the clouds. It has a day-night capability. So you can look at any location, notwithstanding the need of a solar radiation of producing optical signals. So this is the RESAT kind of a thing. We also went into regional remote sensing, remote and national navigation system. And there are several other kinds of things. We knew the idea of naming a satellite into the application thematic basis, like the Cartosat, AgriSat, and so on. And also the use of these kind of satellites for applications like education and telemedicine. And also we embarked on developing the new generation of GSLV, the GSLV Mark III, developing the more advanced propulsion system, which you call the air-breathing propulsion system, primarily to cut down the amount of fuel that you need to carry, and thereby improving the efficiency of the launch vehicle, and most importantly also a cryogenic development at the indigenous level. I want to say about the cryogenic it has received the attention of Professor Dhawan, it received the attention of Professor U.R. Rao, and subsequently during my time too. And the whole idea was to develop an engine which can use liquid oxygen and liquid nitrogen. They are, as you know, cryogenic temperatures. One is 20 degrees Kelvin, other is 60 degrees Kelvin. You need to have turbo pumps, which have to do something like which has to boost by providing hydrogen at 2 kilograms we pumped in per second. So which means you need to have a booster pump or turbo pump, which will be something like 40,000 RPM to 60,000 RPM. These are engineering challenges, incredible compared to the normal type of turbo pump we are accustomed to, 600 RPM, 400 RPM, and so on and so forth. So these were all to be developed, and there is no technology transfer possible. So Dhawan initiated something at 1 ton, URO boosted it up, defined it, and finally, during my time, we have completed fairly good amount of testing of an indigenous version of the cryo pump, which today is a workhorse in terms of the GSLV's capability for this. We did not leave out, of course, you know, all of us had a scientific background and we did not want to leave out the science as a part of this. So science and meteorology, you know about astrosat, I don't want to go into the details of this. Megatropic is another thing where the scientific basis of the monsoon system. We worked closely with the France to do this. And then we also embarked on a planetary mission starting with Chandrayaan-1 and so on. I'll say a little bit about that later on. So by the time I stepped down in 2003 August as the chairman, these are the kind of milestones that we could achieve so far as ISRO is concerned. Of course, starting up right from Sarabhai's days through Dhawan, Menon, and U.R. Rao. I just want to share with you some of the challenges of how do you take decisions in ISRO. You know, when you want to talk about a planetary mission, it's not easily, taxpayer, what does he start asking, what are we going to get? You put hundreds of crores of money into this, and what is the benefit you, a taxpayer, get? So we have to adopt a way in which the decision for going for a planetary program is properly done. You have a general appreciation from the stakeholders and also the public in general. So I had an opportunity to make a presentation on the Pokhran 2 day, that is May 1999. I made a presentation of generally ISRO's program. And in that, we added 2 or 3 more slides regarding the India's PSLV capability, the satellite capability, and showed how we can reach moon, how much of weight it can carry, the spacecraft, how we can go to Venus, how we can go to Mars. So some analysis and a trajectory analysis, capability analysis, and our capacity to build. So this we presented. And that presentation was very well received. It was attended in Delhi on the Pokhran 2 day. And it was by Murli Manohar Joshi. It had a lot of political system, policy makers, people from public, and also intellectuals of Delhi. There were 400, 500 of them. They heard this presentation, and their focus was mainly on the India's capability. India's capability on the vehicle and satellite, which enables us to become a power for planetary exploration. Next day, there was a tremendous reaction in the national media, and there was an overall support for this. Enthused by this, we went further to discuss with scientific community, scientific community, astronomical community. A detailed analysis was made. We did a parliamentary political center. You know, there's a standing committee on science and technology. We presented to them. In fact, they were so happy, and they said, why only moon? Why not Mars? Why not this thing? And so they were more enthusiastic than even us in trying to encourage us to go for planetary exploration. Then a national task force was created. George Joseph chaired this national task force. And then a review committee was purposing. And ultimately, we got the endorsement of the National Space Commission. And then it went to Vajpayee. Vajpayee was so enthused, and he asked me only one question: who have been consulted? So I said the whole nation has been consulted in some form or other, and all the stakeholders we have covered it. And also now we have the clearance from the Space Commission. He asked what am I to do? I said that the Independence Day is coming. It would be nice if you make an announcement to the nation. So he said, you give me a 2-page note. So we made a note and gave it to Vajpayee. So we had put the Somayan, and we also said that it will be Somayan, India's first foray into planetary exploration. So we gave it, and next few days, he made the announcement in the public from Red Fort, ramparts of the Red Fort, saying that India is going to enter the planetary era, and it will be a mission called Chandrayaan. It will be a mission to moon, and it will be called Chandrayaan-1. Two changes struck me very interestingly. The one, that Somayan became Chandrayaan. And the second thing is that he had put Chandrayaan-1. We had just put Chandrayaan and Somayan. So when I went and asked him after a few days, he said that I consulted Sanskrit scholars, and they said that Chandrayaan is a better word than Somayan in Sanskrit one. Second, India is a very powerful, and now it's becoming economically strong. How do you say that we'll have one planetary exploration? We should have a series. So he had his political acumen. So he added that also. So I wanted to only tell you, do it properly, your homework, and also make sure that the political system will buy it, because there's a large scale acceptance of this in the country. And then they can add their own strength to it, Chandrayaan, as well as making it into a first of a series, which you see now as Mangalyaan and so on, and it was telling Venus is now another on the anvil. This is all the product of the kind of thinking that we could create among the political system, and which needed its own way of doing things. And this is just an Astros. I don't want to, I'll skip it over, but you know that the tremendous capability that Astrosat has created, and a lot of PRL workers are there in the astronomy. And this is one of those galaxies. I just put the galaxy and the UVIT of the Astrosat. One can see the type of resolution and the details that Astrosat is able to do. It is now the finest ultraviolet telescope in the sky, operating anywhere in the world. I just want to say a few things about my four predecessors. I said so many things about what they did through a narration. Professor Vikram Sarabhai, of course, he initiated the space program itself. Site and creation of DECO are two important things which he did it from Ahmedabad. And they became one of its unique, site became the largest sociological experiment. Creation of DECO was a very unique system, an institution which can create programs for sociological and related applications. Conception of SLV3 was another part of it, which he did. He talked about making sure that we have India has an autonomous capability to reach the space. He wanted to make sure that India does initial investment on advanced system to use the space. So he had an agreement with American satellite Landsat. And he also believed that technologies are uncertain and complex. So we should allow more than one group to do the same development. So duplication is another of his strategy. He knew that a lot of international community is also working on space, interacting with them and knowing their culture and capability certainly will be beneficial to India. His relation at the international level was very significant. And ultimately, he also knew the space had to really be useful. You need the support of stakeholders. You need to create stakeholders and make them support you. And so he initiated in August in 1972 a seminar where we brought together people on communication, people on broadcasting, people on education, people in remote sensing, people in navigation, people in space science. And he set up several committees. And these committees were to give report on how space satellites could be used for the various purposes for India's development. And I happen to be fortunate to work with U.R. Rao in this another one of space science area. So I remember the rigor with which this effort was run out. And there was finally an August seminar, 1972, which was done, I think, if I remember, in the Atira Auditorium. And it was presided at that time by the then Minister Pant, K.C. Pant, and Professor Sarabhai had passed away. So Menon chaired this, and they passed this as a resolution, as a document, which will guide India's space program for the coming years. So the vision of Sarabhai created through a stakeholder meeting and consultation certainly was a big key step in defining the future of India's space program, something that happened in this very city and by the founder himself, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Next came Satish Dhawan, who was a great institution builder. He knew sustainability of space program does need institutions, and institutions here mean various ways in which people use the system on a continuous basis as a part of their own activity. The institutions, visionary steps of cryopropulsion, I mentioned about the cryopropulsion work. By build options, he knew that we cannot indefinitely be doing indigenous development. Wherever it's possible, we should try to plug in things which are available. So our design should be adaptable to available technology. So this is the by build option concept he developed. Project management and review mechanism, he really tightened up to make sure that there is an accountability at all levels and at all points, and you can correct the system well ahead of it surface a serious issue. So there is a project management style and a review system which he introduced. The strength of ISRO today, and involvement of industries and academia was other part of it. Professor Menon signed the agreement. He was an interim chairman. He supported the agreement for the Aryabhat. He also concluded the August seminar where he chaired when Professor Dhawan was away in US and Sarabha was no more. And ultimately, of course, he did many other routine systems, but critical enough in terms of like Apple approval, project approval, and so on. He was followed, of course, by UR Rao, satellite program, I mentioned about it. IRS and application program is another major thing. He pushed INSAT development and its capability building within the country and also using this application and completion of Apple and Bhaskara and PSL. These are some of the most creditable achievements of a PRLite in those years. I moved out of ISRO, and then, of course, during the ISRO, as a matter of reporting system, you know, the ISRO chairman reports to the Prime Minister. So I was picked up by P.V. Narasimha Rao when he was the chairman, when he was the Prime Minister. I continued my association with Deva Gowda, then with Gujarat and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So these are the four Prime Ministers to whom I reported during the time of my chairmanship of ISRO. Extraordinary people. Narasimha Rao was initially very reticent in terms of communication, but later on, I think he opened up, and I should say it was a very interesting and intellectual interaction that one could have with the Prime Minister. He knew many things. For example, we discussed about boring a well for water, and we always talk of vertical bore wells. India, have you ever thought of doing a horizontal bore well? And we were completely aghast at this idea of a horizontal bore well. And then he said, you should talk to Oil and Natural Gas Commission. We discussed with them. They have some technology related to horizontal bore wells. Our probability of hitting the water could be a little higher. So that is the kind of things he is thought about. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he never used to talk too much, but he was a great listener. And when he listens to you, he is absorbing what you are telling. I said that our remote sensing sales are almost reaching 40% of the world sales in the remote sensing product. You remember this kind of numbers. So next time when I went and met him, he said that you said 40%. Has it increased further in the last 3 months? He asked. So he remembered that there is a 40% number that I have told him about the remote sensing sales, data sales abroad. Another person, he is also very caring. He said that I would like to see you in the evening. I was wondering why he prefers to see me at 6 o'clock and not earlier. He said, you know, the whole day it's all politics, politics, politics. And I'm tired. My mind is tired. I want to hear something good before I go to sleep. So best thing is to ask you to come and tell me about space. So that is the kind of attitude here. He said we will have, you know, he liked kachori and chai. So he said we will have kachori, chai, and space briefing. That is the agenda beyond 6 o'clock. That is much fine. He was very, and he was also very humorous. When somebody asked about Chandrayaan in a press review in Sriharikota, and he said, sir, you are going to go for Chandrayaan. He said, yeah, I'll be here, but right now I am not aware of it, but you can ask secretary. So the question was directed to me. I said, Chandrayaan right now is still in the process of thinking. So right now it is in the realm of romanticism. So only Prime Minister can tell. You can be very free with him. Only Prime Minister can say about the romanticism of lunar mission. Then he asked, he said, क्या है ये चंद्रयान कैसे हैं ये तो रोमांटिक कुछ नहीं है आप देखा है इसमें कितना पोकर मार्क्स है उसके ऊपर This is the kind of a thing here. You know, he is such a humorous person. I.K. Gujaral was another type of person. When Kalpana Chawla was passing over India, he wanted to have a conversion from the Delhi. So he called me and he said, what shall I tell Padmanabhan? Of course, he said that, you know, Rakesh, when was, and Indira Gandhi asked, Bharat कैसे लिखते हैं? सब सारे जगह से अच्छा. That's what Rachel. What do we tell Kalpana Chawla when? Yeah, I told him several things about Kalidasa's Mega Sandesha and many other things. But later on, when actually the thing took place, he said, सितारों से आगे और भी कुछ है, उमर क़याम. He was so poetic about this. He went and told her like that kind of a thing. She really enjoyed that part of it. Deva Gowda, he facilitated us to get approval for the inside data exchange and many other areas. He was 9 months Prime Minister, but he took some very critical decision and he also gave us an extra budget whenever we wanted. So I just give you a flavor of the Prime Ministers with whom we worked and the way they looked at ISRO. Later on, of course, I went to member Rajya Sabha as the director NIAS, and these are institutions which are very different. All I remember about Rajya Sabha is the fact that they had to take a decision on an agreement on NEP 123, the nuclear deal, and I being one of the nominated members had no special as preference for one party's view or other party, and I supported it and I gave a talk. And it was well received. And it was, these are the kind of things when the political system feels that somebody is talking from his assessment and his ideas and his sincerity, they share with you. So that was very evident when it came to the Rajya Sabha role. The member of the Planning Commission wanted to deal with these mega programs of the country. It was an extraordinary experience to work in this particular Planning Commission for 5 years. I was in charge of science and technology, then agriculture research, environment and forest, and also global change. So this area was to be handled, and there were several interesting issues, policies, and directions that were to be given. This was a part of a planning commission role. I think it was a very, very useful, effective system in terms of trying to steer countries' planning processes towards the directed ends. And of course, more recently, thanks to the present government, I was also asked to work with the national education policy. It's an important policy simply because it comes after 35 years of the last education. A lot of things had to be done, a lot of consultations had to be made, and the stakeholders are spread right across the country in different levels of society. So they had to be all talked about. But we finally came out with that kind of, after 2 years of quite a rigorous effort of crafting it, consultations, and also getting the best of the practices from abroad and many other kinds of things. I'm happy to say that it has been accepted by the government. It is now in the process of implementation. One of the important implementation is related to the National Curricular Framework for School Education. As you know, there is a transformative change in the school education. And this has been made possible only because of the fact that we have a better understanding of science, the cognitive science, neural sciences, and so on. We brought in quite a bit of science and technology into the planning of the policy. And this is now proving to be a very effective way in which these policies will develop, implement them, and also evolve further. So right now, school education will undergo in the next year or so a major transformation from what you may call 10+2 to 5+3+3+4. That we had 15-year school education going up to the age of 18. And this is very much aligned with the developmental characteristic of the youngster. It is not based on any arbitrary setting of standards for the study, but to look at the ability of the child to pick up, assimilate, understand, and not depend on rote learning. So there are many interesting aspects of the national education policy and its implementation, which is currently there. I should compliment and I should say good words about Narendra Modi ji's tremendous faith in the policy at this stage and his desire to push this education system to make India really a dynamic and front-ranking knowledge society. So I conclude, it has been a long journey in different ways and different locations. It was an extraordinary journey with great opportunities, exciting experiences, and memorable events. Most grateful to my country and its leadership. and above all, heartfelt appreciation and thanks to each one of my colleagues and well-wishers, there are many here, whose influence was very much evident throughout my professional career. Thank you, Pierre, for giving me the right take of trust. Thank you.
Friends, we'll have interaction session now, and I'll request Mr. Sridharan to kindly coordinate this session. And you're all invited to, ask the questions. This is a very rare opportunity wherein you can directly ask questions and, see his views. So I invite, the floor is open, and we have about 15-20 minutes. And I would also like to tell you that there are more than 250 people online on YouTube. So we might have some questions. We already have some questions there, and some colleagues are looking after that. So first we'll have questions here.
Thank you, Professor Deshpande. All of us would definitely agree with me when I say that Rangan has really taken us all along with him in the walk the talk lecture. And I am very sure that many of you will be having questions and will be keen to interact with him. So the floor is open, and Dr. Rangan will be very happy to provide answers to your questions. So, who is coming forward? Yes, Vaman Kulkarni. Microphone. Just please hold it. Microphone is being passed on to you.
I'm Vaman Kulkarni from University of Mumbai, and I did PhD from PRL. My question to you is this, that UGC is going away from research areas. UGC recently announced the highest degree given by UGC is MSc. So in effect, PhD is not requirement for teaching jobs anywhere. Of course, now they have started teaching courses of PhD, but that is not working. So do you have any policy about making research important for appointment in UGC teaching jobs?
Education. So you have been recommended for restructuring into 3 broad categories compared to several versions of higher education institution today exist, including 40,000 institutions with no university status. So those are one which will be a research university, and these are the Ivy institutions in US. Second is this is the research come teaching. Second is teaching come research. Third is degree giving autonomous colleges. So one of the important thing is that the research component has been now in 2 aspects of education has been integrated with full explicit characteristics specified. One is the research at the higher education, and even there is a provision for undergraduate education to have a certain level of research. And the second thing is, and then the research and teaching universities. And the second one is with regard to the teachers themselves, both school and college teachers. They are moved into higher education institution for getting their degree, which includes a BEd which will be now obtained only through a higher education institution. It will not be done with TEIs and so on. As a part of the higher education institution, when you get a BEd, which will be derived right from a central university or a regular university or from even other Ivy League universities, the question is, they will have to go through the same type of rigor and as a BTech goes through in IIT or a law school go through or medical student goes through in the medical colleges and so on. So we have upgraded the standard for teaching, upgraded the standards for the teachers to make sure they are no less than the degree holders in other areas. That is the second. And third, we have also introduced research as one. We are fully convinced in the report that teaching and research go together and they complement each other. And a better teacher is the one who has also done some stint of research, not that he has to be very active all the time, but there should be some stint of research which enables areas and concepts and things of that kind properly brought to the youngster. So this is a part of the policy. This is already put down, and how this will be implemented is the discussion. But UGC itself, they are discussing how will they do it, because the character of the regulatory structure for the higher education is also going to change. So it is those systems that will facilitate the kind of thing that is needed for the teachers to undergo a research background in terms of certain level of work. It is there, it is very much there in the policy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful talk. So I am a faculty member in Theory Division, PRL. My question is related to new education policy. I've read this policy and I'm agreeing with most of its points. The one point is regarding foreign university campuses in Indian universities. So there, actually, I have 2 points. One is that those foreign university courses will be very costly. So it will be only for rich students or above average students. So the poor students or below the poverty line, so those students, it may not be reachable. The second point is that, rather than inviting the foreign universities to India, if we can strengthen the infrastructure, manpower, for example, Delhi University, they say that they have not recruited faculty for decades. So they have contracted faculties. So if we can strengthen the infrastructure, funding to our existing universities, and we have our pride, like Delhi University, then Cultivation of Science, then Presidency College, Kolkata. So those kind of institutions, if we stress, rather than asking the foreign universities to come to India, it will not be easy. And can you comment on that?
You know, there are always 2 ways in which we try to attack a problem. We have envisaged in the next 20 years, something like 200 to 250 research teaching universities. And they have to be highly multidisciplinary. You navigating through various areas for the students should be facilitated. The campus should be large, so as the intermingling of different disciplines comes into picture. So you can't have subcritical and silo-based education. So these are all the kind of things to the present, many of the present universities, and remember the state universities represent 87% of the student population. We need to undergo. Now, what we have done is that to develop these 200 universities has its own time frame. We want to make sure that if we allow, say, 50 to 60 or 100, even 100 universities who are selected on a criteria. Please don't think that any university from abroad can come and invest. This is number one. They will be selected. They will be given certain type of support through legislation. So that is also important in the context of running an education system. And they will have to have a certain time in which the model that has been agreed to as the emerging outcome of that university is realized. And this has to be well ahead of an Indian system establishing a similar university. So you have a time frame issue here, and also the ability to adopt a particular model from the year. These are the 2 elements. So what we have kept in mind is to make sure that we will speed up the process of establishing world-class universities as an alternate option from outside. and give them the necessary support, which then also characterize what support is needed for this kind of institution. And the legislative part of it also will be done. And we expect that those universities have been carefully chosen, monitored, and the objectives that have been laid down are met by them. And then there is no reason why we cannot, if they can do it in 5 years and create 10 universities of within 5 years of the class of universities that we are looking on. Many of them will get spawned, many universities within India with similar characters. So this is an experiment we want to do. How much it will work, we decide how we progress it. But certainly we think that there are institutions abroad which will be willing, the best in good institutions, who might be able to come and create a culture and environment and the necessary parameters to make themselves preeminent in terms of a university, and which can then become model for India also to adopt it with a little bit shorter time frame. So that is our idea. It is not so much that we are simply going to allow everybody and then this is going to populate the university. That is not going to be the idea at all.
Yeah.
Institutions like PR, this question should be always relevant. You can never close this question. Which essentially means it depends on you what will be the future of PR. It is not going to be defined by anyone. If the moment people are going to define too much of roadmap for this kind of institutions, the very nature and the fun of being in PRL and experiencing the culture of PRL will be lost. You rediscover yourself what should be the next level, the next level. The only direction is the knowledge is now becoming more and more comprehensive. Your knowledge in one theme should not assume that you know everything about even that team itself. So long as PRL reflects this changing characteristics of the knowledge spectrum in the world and bring in interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, and other types of disciplines, how they build it together, and how do you look at problems with a larger perspective of multiple domains of knowledge, I think we will have a successful effort because these kind of institutions are far less, the thinkers are even less in this kind of it. But if you continue to do only highly domain-specific areas, it has its own place, no doubt, but it should not be the only direction in which PRL should go. So to me, it looks to have multiple discipline is an important property of PRL. The ability to couple the disciplines into a beautiful interdisciplinary concept or a cross-disciplinary concept, and even open up new areas in the process is another kind of a thing. I think whereas you can easily do the first part of it probably effectively, their quality is more important and contemporaneous. Second one needs a new way of working and a culture. I think that PRL should rediscover what is that culture needed to make it an integral. For example, is there one program in which the entire PRL can be involved? And it's a very, very important and global change. I think every researcher may have a contribution that you can make for a global change. So can you have a program where the PR will come together to deal with a particular aspect of a program, particular aspect even in the, not in the limited sense, in the broader sense. This is all I can see, but these kind of institutions should be left to themselves, not too much of tampering in terms of outside ideas, but internal systems should certainly be continuously seized with new changes that are happening and the corresponding contemporaneous of the way in which you want to attack the particular problem. So this is a very good question, but I think the question cannot elicit except on the experience of talking about the education and the importance of knowledge and the ultimately importance of research and education and innovation. I think this is going to be very relevant in the context of PRL's ability to turn out new ideas. This is something related to this. I have also recently discussed at NIAT, National Institute of Advanced Studies in Bangalore. Again, something which is coming from J.R.D. Tata's mind, something in which he has put mathematics at that particular time, but he knows it is not only mathematics, physics, philosophy, sociology, you should bring it together. How do you bring it together and look at a particular problem? That problem will get a better assessment by this kind of a thing. So how much of PRL should get into that kind of a thing, or even institutionally tie it up with other institutions? For example, I'll give a simple question. You have TIS, Tata Institute of Social Science. You have physical research laboratory here, it does in physics in various areas. You come together, what are the very interesting problems which they can tackle because of your capabilities, and vice versa. To start exploring that kind of a thing, it's not necessary that everything should be built here, but inter-institutional, inter-group, inter-departmental, and interpersonal. Everyone has a relevance. Can you discover some relationship for them which will bring out that kind of innovation to an outcome? That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, very lucid explanation or guidance that has been given by Dr. Rangan. And before we close down or pass it on to the convener, there is from YouTube, a person, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Mishra, would like to hear about your interaction with President Kalam.
Very limited. We had more casual. There was no formal.
No.
We had worked in another area, and I was in another way of looking at things. So wherever there is interest, either case, to talk about a particular point, we always do this. But more importantly, he is a very fine human being, and to know him, to interact with him as a human being, was a special privilege I always say. That is more important than talking of specifics when it comes to Kalam.
Thank you, sir. I just would like to thank Dr. Rangan once again for the illuminating talk given by him.
Thank you very much, sir, for answering this question. There are many more questions, but since there are other programs, so we'll go proceed with next thing. And I'll request Professor Bhardwaj to kindly felicitate Professor Kasturirangan ji.
You go there?
So this is the token of our love, affection, and regards. We'll now present a sample of meteorite which fell on 24th. Yeah. This meteorite fell in Maharashtra in Bhojade Chowki village in Kopargaon, this taluka of Ahmednagar district. And our colleagues reached there. So the thick section is being prepared, and the experts, they say that this is regolith breccia and could be a piece of differentiated asteroid.
That's all I can. Everything right from carbonaceous contracts to whatever it is. Very, very special. Comes from PRL. Art is here. Thank you.
Friends, I would like to make a small announcement that in 2017, PRL was fortunate to have recorded more than 1 hour, 40 minutes of interview with Professor Kasturirangan. And that is a very, very precious collection. It is recorded by DECU, and very soon it will be put on PRL's website. And with the permission of Sir, I can declare that, announce that he sang one song for 30 seconds. And that is the precious thing.
One song. Listen to his music also.
As the youngest alumnus in that interview, I requested, sir, can I have a privilege of requesting you to sing? And he spontaneously sang something. So that's a rare thing, and we'll put it on PRS.
Even George Joseph is there. Okay. Now you can see. Bosser, Devi, Togi. They all were there in the last time when you visited. 2017. I was there. Atiba is there. George Joseph. All the youngsters. They had a photograph with you.
That's outside his office.
This is outside the office.
That's outside your office.
You were interviewed, by the. Okay, let's up the light. That's it. Sir?
May I request Dr. Lokesh to kindly express the vote of thanks. And thereafter, we are going to have a photo session. So I request all of you to join for the photo session outside after the vote of thanks and before the high tea.
Good morning, and it is my pleasant duty to present the vote of thanks. First of all, we are thankful to Dr. Kasturirangan for accepting our invitation and delivering excellent Amrut Vyakhyaan. We appreciate you, sir, for the presentation as well as interaction session. Now, I take this opportunity to thank all viewers who are more than 600 today, including the audiences in this auditorium as well as those who have joined in YouTube. I express my sincere thanks to Director PRL Professor Anil Bhardwaj, Dean Professor D. Raju, Registrar Professor R.D. Deshpande, Chair of PRL Amrut Vyakhyaan Committee, Professor Namita Srivastav, Convener Dr. Bhusit Vaishnaw, and all other committee members for their support to host this excellent Amrut Vyakhyaan. Also thanks to PRL Alumni Association, President Professor Sunil Singh and Convener Dr. Arvind Singh, and other office bearers and local organizing committee for integrating this Vyakhyaan with the one-day conference for PRL alumni on PRL's 75 years science journey and our role. I also acknowledge the support of different administrative departments, computer center, catering, CMG, etc. PRL. Once again, thank you all for being the part of PRL's Platinum Jubilee and Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations. Please pardon me if I missed to mention the support of one and all. And in that case, we'll have a grand vote of thanks today evening as scheduled. Thank you.